Okay, so here we are in part 2. Now, first I would like to say, imagine the perfect team. What do you think is the best team for a team fight? I remember back in the day, we would say things like, oh yeah, get Amumu, get Morgana, get Fiddlesticks, get Alistar, and get, I don't know, Corki, or just someone who does AoE damage. You could use Ashe, for example. Volley's pretty good. And you would have this team that could do amazing teamfight damage. I mean, those lanes are kind of weird, but we used crappy lanes back then anyway, so it worked out. So you have this team that has this amazing teamfight potential, but how do you use it? How do you go in and win with a team like that? And a lot of the time when people come up with team comps, they come up with this very, very situational, very, very strong team that only works if everything goes right. So in that case, that's an AoE hellfest. I mean, that is so much AoE damage. But what if the enemy team is very split up? What if you need to catch 2 people out and they counter with 3 right after? And that is something you have to look at when you make a team composition. So in that case, going for mass AoE can work, but you got to make sure you have the lockdown. And if you don't get into an AoE fight, you should hopefully at least be able to do okay. You know, something. And that is why team composition is very, very tricky. And you can go for this team, you can say, all right, this should work in these circumstances, fight in these circumstances. But what if the enemy team doesn't let you? If you want to split push, but what if the enemy team is actually really good at just pushing down towers? If you want to go ahead and get into AoE team fights, what if they have Gragas and Janna just blasting you back the second you go for these fights? There are lots of little circumstances and lots of ways what should work, or that make things that should work just fail. Janna, for example, is great against AoE or just very, very divey and tanky champions. Kog'Maw is one of the hardest carries in the game. You can't run a super late game team if they have Kog'Maw. So, what Books Are Cool's team tries to go for is something that isn't super, super weak in the lane, but something that can work in a decent situation outside of lane. So Rumble and Karthus are 2 amazing slows. Rumble ult and Karthus wall will really lock down a team fight. And the goal is, okay, we have Alistar and Malphite go in. They CC whoever they go, they can. Malphite preferably initiates, this way Alistar can follow up, which he's a little better at than initiating, just because when you initiate, his headbutt's a bit slow, not the highest range. Malphite ult, humongous range. So you have Alistar going after Malphite. Karthus wall will slow people trying to get towards Karthus, Miss Fortune, and Rumble, depending on where he is. Rumble ult will lock people in place. You've got this massive AoE slow coverage, and then you have a lot of people CC'd for a way that can't be responded to. Is this a good plan? I mean, the answer is, well, what if that doesn't work? What if they don't get into this AoE lockdown? In this case, I think the slow should be enough. There actually are a few holes, but this ends up happening in the replay, so I won't really talk about them. And I know a couple people have questions. Why did they pick Malphite? I asked NK Inc., the Malphite player, about this, and he told me he doesn't actually like Malphite that much as a jungler in itself. Like, his clear times aren't amazing, his ganks aren't amazing, but his knockup is amazing. And this was a pick entirely for the team. Do not go into Malphite jungle thinking, oh yeah, no, this is good, I saw Books Are Cool doing it. He did it because he wanted to try something new, and he wanted to try it with that team. So Malphite being there wasn't because Malphite is great. I mean, I like Malphite quite a bit, but it was there because Malphite was needed there. I asked Regnatic about Alistar, same thing. He likes Alistar. He feels he can make big plays with him and do more than he can with Leona, for example. And Alistar does have that knockback that Leona doesn't. Leona I think might have more CC. Yeah, she has more CC in an AoE situation, but Alistar has a few mobility tricks. And overall, they just want to focus on this, AoE comp. And I like it. I like that they're trying something new. I think this is a pretty cool composition. Is it good? It's got a lot of little flaws, a lot of little things the enemy team can do. But you know what? This is a good composition, and the fact that they're trying it is cool enough for me. So let's jump into the second half of this replay. Let's see this composition really start to get into play. Even though they're behind, even though they've been getting kicked around quite a bit, let's see what happens. All right. So last we left our heroes, they were in a bad spot. What happened was they got into a bad fight, and now they need to recover. And what is the best way to recover from a situation like this? You gotta take a risk. And as that dead Malphite body showed, they have to take a risk. Now, what risk are they gonna take? Well, if you look at the minimap, you know what it is. And if you looked at where I was looking, you also know. Cutie Pie is bot, Graves will not be stopping them. And they have a Baron team. A Baron team is a team that can do Baron quickly or safely. So Shen can make a Baron team, Karthus can do Baron very quickly because of his Q, and Dig is going to do something very silly. They made a mistake by leaving Baron open. You can always have to watch out for a counter Baron after you get objectives, after you do a push. If you have to go back and heal, the enemy team can go for a counter Baron. So that was a mistake on their part to leave Baron just so open and for Cutie Pie to go bot before they knew where the team was. But they tried to stop them. Now they got Karthus, but Karthus is easy to kill, and that doesn't actually stop him from doing damage. So right there, they fed not only Baron, but 3 kills to Books Are Cool. This is something that happens a lot. People see an objective being taken, and Baron's a scary objective. You want it. You don't want the other team to have it. It's huge in some games. So when you see an objective being taken like that, you can't risk everything to go for it. If you look at Books Are Cool, they're actually playing very, very passively right now. Miss Fortune was headed towards that golem, but Frag said retreat. There is a retreat signal on Cruxbonder to not go to golem. Now, what they should have done is have I Will Dominate, try and go for the steal. If they couldn't get that steal, retreat and don't go for it. Letting go of an objective is bad. You don't want it to happen. And it is a bad feeling too, especially in a case like this, because Dig is beating themselves up. They know they could have defended it. They could have gotten that. They could have won the game with that Baron. But they slipped up. But don't turn that slip into just a tumble, a fall. Losing Baron bad, losing 3 dudes worse. Now, Books Are Cool needs to press her advantage. They have mid lane pushed up, and they have really good initiation. Look at this, look at this. Taric is pretty much trapped. Locust can't get out, and I Will Dominate on Shai actually ults in there to try and slow the enemy team down. I think this is kind of a bad idea because losing Shyvana instead of Taric isn't exactly better. But someone was going to die there, and there was no way to protect someone. Unfortunately, Lee Sin is still pushing, and Alistar missed his Pulverize, so they're going to take some extra damage. And Miss Fortune is also tanking this tower, which is going to be just enough to go for the kill. Ryze does go down to the amazing initiation from both Malphite and Alistar. And Cutie Pie is in a bad position. He's caught out, Alistar doesn't die, and Rumble is going to go for that chase. And also, a really cool move here. Malphite tanks the tower, so Alistar will not die. That is something that's just good team play. I've seen it done in solo queue, but it's just, being aware of your team and what you need to do. But the enemy team is getting up soon. They really need to push advantage they can get. Lee Sin is still pushing bottom. Sending Karthus against him was just Karthus suicide. So Karthus goes down, but they're just trying to make as most as they can out of that push. I mean, they were very far behind now. They're still not in the best position, but now they're, I'd say, on at least equal terms. Then this fight's very interesting because pretty similar to that Baron fight. Dig makes that same mistake they did again. They lose Dragon, and they could have had I Will Dominate, try and smite seal it, but it wouldn't have been the best thing. But they lose Ryze, and they don't kill Alistar. He barely dodges at Shyvana. And really, it's just the same mistake, just happening again. They didn't expect the Karthus teleport, but that's something that at this level you have to keep track of. If Karthus has teleport up and can show up to a major fight like that and zone out your AD carry, you probably shouldn't get into that fight. And here Malphite ult had already come up and, well, I'm a Cutie Pie and Locust go down. This was just kind of a breakdown in communication on Dignitus's part. I mean, Voyboy is up there. He's doing what he can. He's trying to keep the pressure up. They really want Books Are Cool to go back to defend against Voyboy. But they're just not letting them have that pressure. They're not letting him have this advantage. And just with deaths and respawns, they're able to push him out. Unfortunately, while Dig has been making mistakes with trying to defend objectives that have been taken, Books Are Cool makes a mistake and they overstay their welcome. They overpush, they overextend. And now Karthus is being chased by 2 people. Lee Sin is actually gotten caught on his way back home and is being killed by Rumble. But they got caught at the enemy nexus, Miss Fortune died, and now they're getting caught from the retreat. They're being very greedy now, and it's just knowing when to back up is huge in this game. They do kill people as they go down. They killed Lee Sin, they killed I Will Dominate on Shyvana, but they're losing Alistar, they're losing Oracles. They lost 3 people before, or 2 people before, and a 3rd is going down now. And the question is it worth it? No, it's not. And it's very weird to see fights like this happen, because when you're watching it, like you go, oh, why would you guys chase? No, you're going to go into that bush and die. Especially when you have vision of both teams, you're like, that's suicide. But in the heat of the moment, when you're playing this game, when you're into it and you're pressing those buttons as hard as you can, because this is definitely a passion game. If you don't get amped up while you're playing this game, then you actually have the ability to be a pro. If you can't make those key decisions, though, they're going to come back to bite you in the ass. Now, this fight starts out very poorly. That spell flex bounces perfectly. Miss Fortune is almost dead. She's tanking Baron, so her damage is reduced. Getting an enemy to tank Baron as you start a fight is an awesome way, especially if it's someone squishy, like in this case, Miss Fortune. They just got hit by so much AoE from that spell flux and have so much damage taken from Baron that they're not going to get a whole lot accomplished here. I mean, Miss Fortune was almost dead. Rumble just took a lot of initial burst. Shyvana is going to go down, which is nice, but not very important. And they try and clean up, but it just doesn't work. So a team fight at Baron should preferably go in a way such that you start a fight on your terms, but only if they try to stop you. Now in that case, you try to stop them. The fight started with Ryze getting his combo off and the enemy and Books Are Cool not really stopping him. They didn't really catch him out of position, and then they just suffered from it, and Miss Fortune tanked Baron. Watching who Baron's attacking can be detrimental, or not watching can be detrimental. But here's another team fight, and this is the strength of Books Are Cool's team. Here they have both Shyvana and Taric, neither of which have flash. Shyvana doesn't have her ult up. They have no escape. So they've been locked down by Karthus wall. Rumble ult is still up, and they've immediately locked down the enemy team to one escape route where they're not slowed. So what looks like a fairly closed off area is even smaller just because there's so few places to go. Now the follow-up initiation and chase is just amazing from Books Are Cool. They're just running them down. They're beating them up. They just Malphite ult and just high damage. He's taking out Ryze and Lee Sin, both of whom are very, very tanky characters at this stage in the game. And that initiation is amazing. But you'll notice this video isn't over yet. And I want to say you should be able to account for this, but this is such an odd circumstance. Will come up so rarely. And when it does, it'll probably catch you off guard, even though you should be careful for it. Watch out for inhibitor respawns. So right now they're on a timetable. They really need to kill this Nexus. It's got about 3,000 HP. Malphite, I love this right now, where Malphite is just in the smoke screen. He can't see anything, and he's attacking the Nexus, trying to win the game. But too much damage is coming out from I'm a Cutie Pie and I Will Dominate. They kill a few members of the team. And it looks like they might have the game, except the inhibitor just respawned, and they have to back up. So what could have been a game finisher is now really just a few kills. And those kills are nice, but that's not what they need right now. They need inhibitors. They need the Nexus. They did get those 2 towers, which means Dignitas. I got it, yes. Which means Dignitas needs to be on the defensive, but that wasn't the game. And that's scary because they don't know if they'll get an amazing initiation like that again. But you know what you have to do in these situations? You have to just keep at it. Go, alright. That sucked, but keep at it. We can do this. We can just do it again. And I would just like to say, that was the slowest dragon at 30 minutes in the game ever. But Malphite does not have a whole lot of damage outside of some spells. So Dig is just going to keep trying to use their really high damage Rise to win team fights. I mean, as you saw before with that spell flux at Baron, a good Rise bounce can win them the game. So they don't really need to back off the pressure. They just need to make sure they're in a position where all of their CC will not, and slows will not catch them in a position to get locked down. So if they're all bunched up next to each other and Malphite ult to all of them, they're going to lose a fight. But if they're spread out in a position where they can do a lot of damage to someone like Miss Fortune or Karthus, and have maybe 1 or 2 people CC'd instead of 5, they'll be fine. And they can win a fight with that. Now the question is, who initiates a fight for Dig? Dig is actually really not in a good position. They can use Rise Rune Prison if somebody gets too far out, but really they're relying on the initiation from Books Are Cool to put themselves out of position. There's always that scary moment when you're someone like Alistar where you can CC, and the question is it worth it? Now this fight, I don't even know how to explain it. So all the CC goes down, there's just a massive area of slow, but Rumble's ult is not really blocking anything off. Wall of Pain is doing the same thing. It's blocking off an area, but nobody really wants to cross it. I Will Dominate and Lee Sin just immediately jump on Karthus, immediately jump on Miss Fortune, and they have this amazing blockade that the enemy team just ignores. And that is exactly what Dig wanted, and exactly what Books Are Cool did not want. They have amazing initiation, but at the same time, the enemy team just dove on their carries. You can have a good stun, like a way to start a fight, but you got to make sure you protect your squishies. In this case, they had a rumble and a wall designed to lock down the enemy team in place. And while they did get some good kills, they did get Rise, for example, they did not have anybody to protect Miss Fortune. And Dig just does what Books Are Cool did last time. They're learning from each other. They overstay their welcome. They really wanted that inhibitor, but now Graves is on the run. Malphite's ult just came back up. Lee Sin kicks him the second he gets there, but he still gets knocked up, and it's enough for Lee Sin to die. Once you get to the late game, 36 minutes, I mean, people are finishing their item builds, they're doing a ton of damage. Once you get to this stage in the game, things like 180 carry can be enough to wipe out your team. I mean, right there, Miss Fortune has a lot of damage. She can burn people down so fast. And if you're at half health, she'll two-shot you. So even if one person comes back up, that can be detrimental to your team. They had 3 up on Dignitas. That still wasn't enough to win a fight, or even come close. Now, Karthus isn't here, but let's just see how good Books Are Cool's initiation is. So the Rumble ult goes down, everybody is slowed. Graves was actually trying to dodge out. You see that fantastic Alistar stun. And Malphite doesn't even need to ult. But right there, the Alistar CC is what they're going for. They still have Malphite ult too. If they'd been even farther behind, they could have still won this team fight with a Malphite ult. And now Books Are Cool, just by virtue of their amazing team fight presence and a few mistakes from Dig and themselves, they're able to take this game. And yeah, this has been Studio. I hope you enjoyed this game, and I'll see y'all.